4 hours after the postponement of the screening exercise for 7 ministerial nominees of President Bola Tinubu, lawmakers converge on the second day of plenary to kickstart the process. It begins with the suspension of the Senate rules to admit the nominees, beginning with Dr. Nentawe Yilwatda, who replaces the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Betta Edu.
I was born to late Reverend Toma Iluada in a community little village called Dungum.
The nominee receives an effusive validation of his pedigree as he speaks about his strategies.
The first thing you do is you get data, because data is a king in resolving challenges in the 21st century. And this is what we may do as a country or as a ministry if given the opportunity.
The next nominee, who is also a former Minister of Police Affairs, Mr. Megari Dingyadi, is admitted next. His wealth of experience clearly precedes him.
You serve as a minister and you have been returned again today. So I don't know what new we are going to ask you.
Lawmakers asked that he take a bow and leave. Ambassador Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, appointed as Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, is then admitted into the chamber.
I am a mother of 3.
She elucidates plans for the ministry.
Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs have to prioritize ensuring that missions abroad actually reflect the true magnitude of Nigeria's standing in the Committee of Nations.
Lawmakers from the southeast spared no words in their commendation of her intellectual capacity and even beauty.
She's very intelligent, very, very charismatic, and very beautiful.
Please restrict your comments to our resume.
The legislators also screened one of their own, a former Speaker of the Kano State House of Assembly. The senators also gave the nod to the Minister of the newly created Livestock Ministry from Adamawa State after what they describe as an impressive track record.
Give us a brief summary of your vision for the new ministry.
In the immediate, our intention is to incentivize all herders and other animal rearers to remain where there are grasses, and the ministry will intend to work with other critical stakeholders to make sure that this vision is realized.
The next nominee and immediate past special advisor in the office of the Vice President, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, is also admitted into the chamber.
What we now need to deliver is the convergence of these 2 pillars of monetary and fiscal policy with trade, investment, and industrial policies to further drive growth.
The 4-hour screening exercise concluded with the Minister of State for Education, Dr. Shuaiba Ahmed.
I commenced my NYSC at the Department of Education, University Kano, between 2003 to 2004. I also assessed different policies at state and federal level, including gender and social inclusion, school safety.
Clearly impressed, lawmakers agree that she takes a bow. All 7 nominees are then confirmed by the Senate. Now, consequent upon the confirmation of these 7 new ministers, the lawmakers have apparently ramped up the expectations of these ministries with a determination to double down on their oversight for accelerated development across the country. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
All right, Lala Akande is here with us, a former presidential aide. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, so there you go. They have been screened. They're as good as confirmed anyway. So the swearing will happen. They will join the cabinet and make up the 48 ministers that we do have. So what are your expectations?
Oh, well, I think, some of them are clearly outstanding appointments. I think we already made that point. Somebody like Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who has been, doing the work of ease of doing business for about 8 years now, seem to have, added quite a bit of experience to our knowledge. So there's a lot of expectation that she will go in there and begin to do the things that she has been advising on before. The role of a special advisor, you're not really meant to implement. Now she gets the opportunity to implement. So I think the highest level of expectation is around our nomination and now confirmation as the Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment. So there's a big expectation on our side. And I think also when you look at the person in charge of livestock, the new Ministry of Livestock now, and many of us weren't persuaded that we really needed a new livestock ministry. But I think the argument has been made since then that, look, I mean, if this is done properly, it can actually transform the Nigerian economy based on the kind of numbers that livestock has generated in other economies. So there's a lot of expectation, a huge expectation and burden on the neck of Mr. Mayhew.
Before you go to the other ones,
yes.
What would you say to those who always ask, because you use the word properly, what has been done properly so far in this country? In ministry?
Well, you know, don't let's get to that depressing, you know, but quite a few things, you know, I mean, yeah, quite a few things.
Such as?
I mean, at times the way we all come together and get results in sports, especially in football, and I think that the social investment program, especially between 2016 and 2019, I think it was so well done that it won acclaim locally, nationally, and internationally.
Well, that was when the social investment program was handled by the former vice president's office.
Yeah.
So that's brought us to two more ministries. We've talked.
No, before those two. Because for industry, trade, and investment, which right. you talked about what she's been doing before this office.
Yeah.
But how much of an individual pedigree will come to light or can come to light or can be independent of the system, the structure, because you're going to be all of that and your team is all of that.
Or the system itself stops you from being as good as you would want to be. Yeah. And like you stated, the job of an advisor is different from the job of a minister.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a very, you guys have just brought up the big elephant in the room in terms of when somebody wants to be transformative and the system is not designed to be transformative, which is the challenge, you know. So that is why people who are reformers also have a job. It's going to be difficult. For instance, look, the social investment program that we had just referred to, when that program was being instituted, there were quite a lot of tremendous, even internal opposition. You won't believe the amount of internal opposition, even among those who belong to the party that pushed the manifesto, not to talk of in the system. But because of consistency and persistence, insisting that we're going to do this, it was done. And it was done to global acclaim. So these things are possible. It's possible. I mean, a reformer just has to understand that, okay, this is what I'm going, this is what I'm going against. And you prepare for it. You know, you have to inspire your team. You have to let them understand that, look, this stuff that we're trying to do is for the benefit of the entire country. And you got to show them how they will also benefit if this is properly done. And we've had ministers in this country who have also tried to do some transformative teams. You know, Obi Ezekwesili tried to do quite a bit in solid minerals, in education, you know, Okonjo-Iweala, you know, in finance. And we've had quite a number of other, you know, outstanding ministers who, despite the challenges in the system, and some of the challenges are also legitimate. For instance, you know, the civil service is poorly paid.
I mean,
and so that affects motivation also.
Let's get to those two, because there are two of ministers right now that everyone is going to be holding their necks very soon.
Yeah.
The one that replaced Betta Edu.
Yes, Dr. Letanwe.
Yes. That's for the humanitarian
and poverty alleviation.
And the conversations around that ministry, people say it is rife with corruption. I was listening to Senator Ned Nwoko yesterday on Politics Today, where he was talking about how, this person is actually, this man who's coming right now, he's talked about data. And Betta Edu talked about data as well when she was coming.
Yeah.
And a lot of them said, we have to rearrange this register. So that we can, and that social investment cannot be something that you just take money and share to people. It has to be systematic, so that you know that if you fall below a particular, just like they have in the US, if you fall below a particular figure, you know that you're going to receive a particular amount. It doesn't have to be something that the politician knows you and is friends with your father and decided to give you 5,000 at the end of the month. But that ministry in itself, this man who's come in, we've seen accolades, you know, at least from Senator Ned Nwoko yesterday. What's he up against, and how can he deliver in that office?
And that's a very important question, because I, in my view, poverty alleviation ought to be one of the major priorities of any government in Nigeria, considering the level and the impact of multidimensional poverty in our country. So poverty alleviation is the big deal. It's one of the reasons why some of us raise questions that, look, you can't leave that ministry without a head for that long. Now, we have in the town where you tell that, and based on what we have picked from people in Plateau State, people in Bauchi State, which we have the places where in the town we had operated, it seems to be somebody who has the right attitude, compassionate. You need somebody who is compassionate, you know, to be in that place. Number two is you need somebody who also understands the use of data, and you know, based on what is the way he spoke yesterday at the screening, you get a sense that he understands the use of data, is even referred to as a digital expert. So those two things are good that he brings in. What I will suggest to him is that he needs to go and look at how this thing was done when it was done properly, fairly properly, between 2016 and 2019. It is very important, because we have global. It's not just that Nigeria.
You blow your trumpet.
Not really. I mean, if you didn't have endorsements from the World Bank, from the United Nations, from African Union, from even local NGOs and CSOs in Nigeria, Action Aid and the National Economic Summit Group, a lot of people were involved in the process. So it's important for him to go and take a look at how it was done.
About that data, though. Yeah. Was it our data, or because I mean, I heard several people also saying, well, this was World Bank, UN, all of them were the ones who, quote unquote, even own the data. Was that correct?
No. So the data that was used, for instance, in the building up of the social register, the National Social Register, this data was gathered locally. It was just a model. It was a community-based model which was designed by the World Bank. The World Bank designed the model. But in the way it was gathered locally. They had to go to local governments. They had to identify the communities where the poor people are. You know, it was something that was thoroughly done.
But at that time, I believe you also know, Senator Danjuma Goji at the time also said, look, I don't know who these people are. Where do you people get this data? Nobody in my constituency has received anything.
And if you remember, so the special advisor, you know, two special advisors from the office of the President went to the National Assembly. You know, Madam Uwais and Senator Ojudu went to the National Assembly and had an interaction with them and told them that, look, this is the list. This is the list of the beneficiaries. Call anyone now. And they did.
And the criticism again that was faced,
and they found out
that yes, those people were the real people. And that criticism that was faced at the time was from the party. I remember then during the Buhari administration, it was, oh, you're giving your enemies. You remember that statement? They said you're giving your enemies empowerment. Give it to the party. Let the party do the distribution. They will sing your praises. You're giving people money and doing investments for people who will not speak up and praise you in public.
Right. So
he's going to be up against that as well.
That's what I was going to make that. We don't know the attitude of Netanyahu to this debate. Maybe Netanyahu is the politician that says, look, let's just take care of our own people first. Or maybe he's indeed a statesman that says, let's take care of the entire Nigeria, which was the point that the then former vice president was saying that, look, let's take care of the whole of Nigeria. Our supporters are our supporters. We know how to sort them out, but because we want to reach the entire country and we want to expand our support base, let this thing go out to as much people as we can. So yes, and it was a very serious argument. A lot of people like Goji and the rest of them, didn't want us. The reason they were raising that argument was that they wanted the money to be given to them so that they distribute, or they are the ones to pinpoint that these are the people that are supposed to be. And we are saying that there's a more scientific approach to it, an objective approach to it.
We don't know if this counts for something. Mr. Dr. Nentawe's mindset. You know, I mean, he vied for the governor of the state, and so he had programs. I mean, his mindset was he wanted to develop the state.
Yes.
He had done some mappings of the state in terms of the kinds of revenue and resources he was going to leverage on to see how the state could be standing by itself. So probably, if his mindset can be relied on, he might have that broad perspective of trying to look at the world from a broader perspective, but not from a keyhole. But being a politician, you don't know when that will kick in. If it's approaching elections, and people then say, but Mr. Man, you know, who knows?
I think the challenge for our politicians is to understand that while you got to take care of the people that voted for you indeed, and they ought to be rewarded for voting for you and others didn't, ultimately, what you are looking for a bigger impact so that you can even grow the party. So that's the logic. So over a long period of time, you are thinking of getting more people out to ultimately come and vote for you. In the 2019 elections, the second term for President Buhari, the social investment was the big deal that we used for the campaign. It was because everybody knew that this was really happening. You know, so it was useful at the end of the day.
So for him, what would you advise? What can be the yardstick for him to measure himself or for people to see whether he has succeeded or not?
Well, I think it is his ability to first and foremost get the data correct. You know, because since after 2019, a lot of drama started in the whole business. A lot of drama that the whole country is aware of. As a matter of fact, it was because of what happened after 2019 that people are now talking about, oh, that data is, you know, who is not that register, who is not down there. When we did it in 2016 and 2019, you didn't, you know, anytime you find an infraction, it is dealt with and publicly communicated so that people had confidence in it. So he's going to have to, first of all, make up his mind what he wants to do about the data. You know, and understand the use of the data and apply it, have a scientific and objective approach to this thing. That is how it brings benefit to him as the minister and to the president who appointed him and the party upon which they stand, is to make it objective. Let everybody see it. You know, I mean, let it be out there for people to see. Let it be out there. Let be transparent.
Let's talk about Mr. Dingyadi.
Yes.
Who's going to be
the Labour. Right.
There's a lot of things going on right now. What should he be thinking? He's going to face, because with the rise in the cost of petrol and the rise in the cost of food, he's going to be facing more protests probably.
You know.
And then more negotiations about this minimum wage and how it's going to be able to play out in the months to come. What should be at the back of Mr. Dingyadi's mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that Mr. Dingyadi has, has taken up this assignment, which is a very onerous one. You know, I mean, right now, NASU and SANU, they're still on strike. There's going to be a lot of tension, like you said. I think what Mr. Mahamudu Dingyadi can bring to the table is an effective engagement with the labor union, the industrial union. You know, it's not that it will be his own job to solve the problem. You know, the entire government is supposed to do that. What he should achieve, which many of the labor ministers have not done very well, is to have a proactive, in my view, a proactive relationship with the industrial unions. You know, have a relationship with them before there is a crisis. And then secondly, when there is a crisis, communicate with them, you know, promptly. You will be surprised that a lot of the times when these labor unions give notices, you know, warning strikes, nothing happens. And you are wondering that, look, so what's the whole point of having a minister of labor, a ministry of labor? That's your own job. If HASU says that we are going on strike and we are giving a 7 days notice, you should start to engage them the moment you get the notice. Now, if you even have a proactive relationship, you know, you will have known what is going to come down the road even before it is announced. So I think what he should try to do is to have a mutual trust. Create mutual trust between himself and the unions, so that the communication back and forth, even if government is not going to be able to solve the problem, if you keep talking with them, that counts for something. You know, they trust you, they trust the process. You bring whichever ministers is involved to the table with them. You know, you have a negotiation, and you make the negotiation, you know, transparent as much as possible. These are very simple things that can give dramatic results. But for the most part, a lot of the people that end up in these ministerial positions, they don't understand it. For instance, you know, some of them think that their job is to go and fight, you know, and go and knock out the industrial unions and say, you can't do that, you can't do that. Yes, of course, there are things that the law compels, but it's important to have a mutual understanding with them and say that, look at what happened in 1992. You know, when ASU went on strike and Babangida was the president, and eventually they brought Obasanjo to solve the problem after 7 weeks. You know, and the president said that, look, this thing that you guys are asking for, we don't have the money. They told them, the federal government team in 1992 told ASU that we don't have the money. Guess what? ASU said that we will find the money. And the president said, you can find the money? Yes. That was how TED Fund, the idea of TED Fund developed, because ASU said that, look, the money is in this country. Do this, do that. They drafted the decree, and Babangida signed the decree for TED Fund to create money. So when you have a mutual understanding with these industrial unions, the possibilities are endless.
Well, he's been around the bureaucracy, so he's expected to know how to pull the strings and find his way around all of those things. So hopefully, let's see how he performs on that one. Let's take you to Ministry of Livestock Development, Idi Mukhtar Maiha, who lots of expectations for him, even though some don't know how he's going to approach this. But key among some of the expectations will be, how is he going to modernize livestock management and trade? So he's someone who has, I understand he has, he's been there, livestock management, he's as well. So he should be able to bring those to bear.
Is he going to be bringing modern techniques on, or should he stick to the old ways? What should he be doing?
All right, so the profile of Mr. Mukhtar that we had was that, of course, he's into livestock, he's not politically affiliated. This guy just gets his job done and he knows it. And we respect that. But the first thing that he said yesterday, he brought up the issue of the grazing routes. Excuse me, those grazing routes are gone. You know, I mean, so that sends a very poor indication of how this guy wants to approach the issue. The grazing routes are gone. We need to modernize the system. We expect somebody like him to be able to talk to the guys and say, you can make more money. There's a way that this thing can be done in a better way than you to still be looking for grazing routes. I mean, I was concerned when he started talking about grazing routes again. Anybody that is talking about grazing routes now is trying to be politically correct.
So that was what I was going to get to on. Because it's a political conversation.
Yes.
And it's one that many people hold very dearly. For some reason,
it's sensitive.
For some reason, it's very sensitive to many people. The conversation, of course, about grazing routes is that the world has changed. There's afforestation. There's a lot of climate change.
Infrastructural development
has overtaken over all of those places. But if you were in his shoes, would you want to jettison, you know, that, because remember, this is something that a lot of people, himself included, apparently, from listening to him yesterday, hold very dear.
Yeah.
So here we are with this man who still has these ideas about grazing routes and old traditional livestock practices. Should he change his mindset? Should he incorporate new things? What can he do that will please everybody?
Yeah, so that's the whole point about leadership. So when you are a leader, you have gotten to a place where the people haven't gotten to. And it's now your responsibility to take them there. There's no way that Mr. Mahia does not know that ranching is the better way to solve it. There is no doubt about that. Look at his life, look at his business, look at his successes.
He ranches.
Exactly. You know, so for him to be talking about grazing routes is just trying to be politically correct. And there is a place for that. because these are very sensitive issues. But as leaders, we expect people like him, just like we expected President Buhari, who was a Fulani man, to be able to talk to the people. I mean, if you are a Fulani leader and say that, look, guys, we can do this thing better, they'll probably listen to you than somebody like who is not a Fulani, who they don't think has understanding of what they're doing. If you have a Fulani leader saying, look, guys, we will do this thing, your children will be better for it, you'll be better for it, even your cattle will be better for it. That's what we need. We need that kind of transformative conversation with the herders and with their leaders to say that we can sort this problem. This idea of grazing route, oh my God, is so backward. Mr. Minister, please repent before you take that job.
Well, incidentally, he was MD of Kaduna Refinery. So he's got a rich CV in being a technocrat.
Without a doubt.
So how is he going to balance all of those will remain to be seen, because you expect that to be in that kind of industry, you should be forward-thinking.
Yeah.
So many will hope that he knows how to navigate. But I guess we'll wait and see. You never can tell with politics. When you get in there with all your pedigree, some things, politics just happens to you, who knows. But with this one, there's just one thing Nigerians expect, and nothing more than you must succeed.
Absolutely.
You must improve the lives of the people.
Absolutely.
If not, you know what to do.
It's no use.
Mr. Akande, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's look at Professor Enahena's comments. He says, he's talking about River State, by the way. He says, River State is too important for the leaders of the PDP to watch from afar as two senior members of the same party disagree, or their disagreement is attempting to set the state on fire politically. And this, he says, can snowball into serious anarchy, given the atmosphere of the fragility of the state, which is prone to conflict and violence by different groups of renegades waiting to capitalize in this impasse. Whatever the issues are, both sides of the divide must exercise restraint for the sake of the people of River State. So he pleads, Professor Diana. That is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next time. I'm Chamberlain Usopp. Goodbye.
Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.